Well, hello everyone, and a warm welcome to all our listeners to today's The Digital Banker podcast series episode. Today we have with us Gail Russell, who's the Global Head of Customer Experience and Channels at HSBC. Gail, a warm welcome to our podcast. It was lovely to meet you in person last month in Singapore. I hope the experience was good for you.
Yes, thank you, Shruti. It was a wonderful evening attending the Gala Awards, and it was a great opportunity to spend time with the team and recognise the great work that they've done. And winning the award was really brilliant. It was also great to be inspired by hearing the other winners and what some of the other organisations are doing, and also I made some great contacts and built my network. So it truly was a great evening. So thank you for that.
That's excellent. Well, to our listeners, HSBC won the Best CX Business Model Award at the Digital CX Awards 2025, which took place at the Mandarin Oriental in Singapore in April. So, first of all, congratulations.
Thank
But
you.
Gail, what does this recognition mean for you and your team? And what do you think set your approach apart from the competition?
Yeah, great way to start. I mean, I think winning the award for our global business was, and being there with you all in person, I think was just such a great endorsement of the work that we've been doing as a team over the past few years, and a great recognition of us really truly putting the customer first in our organisation. I think for the team, it was also positive, a really positive validation that our approach and with the work that we've been putting in over those years is in the right way, and we were being recognised for that. And our approach to this has been grounded in sort of three things: data, empathy, and then being very consistent in how we execute. And those things take a lot of focus and energy to make sure we maintain that over a couple of years, and getting that recognition really validated to us that this is right and we're truly making a difference for our customers around the world. And I think when you said the second part of your question, what sets us apart, I think it's our ability to scale consistently across our diverse global markets. HSBC is a truly global organisation, and we're working across, from Mexico all the way through to China and multiple countries. And so we're able to scale our model, but then also allow for local relevance. And I think that's what set us apart, because that's not easy to do. And maybe I could give a few examples of how we've done that, or how we've tried to do that. So we started at the very beginning of this, and we wanted to embed customer experience into our organisation, so into the DNA, and we did that through embedding that into some of our governance, and then also our performance management. So it becomes more second nature in the way that we'd start doing and running our organisations. That was really important. We also really encouraged collaboration and cross-functional collaboration. Now, this happens in a lot of organisations, but it doesn't happen without a lot of effort. And for customer experience, we need to collaborate across a lot of different areas. So products, operations, digital, and of course all of the frontline teams, whether that's people in contact centres or people in branches. And how do we work together as one team and then deliver the best experiences? So we put a lot of focus on that as well. And with that, I think one of the things we really recognise is that we need to break down the silos. Organizational structures are often very siloed, and not all of the different areas talk to each other. And making sure that we looked at the customer journey approach allowed us to really change that and try and break those silos. And then probably the most important, and it sounds very simple, but again, you need the discipline to do it, is how do we continually learn and improve? So you need to have that culture within the team and within the organization to really act on feedback and deliver improvements and fixes and benefits. So it's not just listening and doing nothing, but how do we really create that culture of taking action off the back of it. So that was also really important.
Thanks, Gail. That's a lot of insights from your end. As we all know, customer expectations keep evolving at a rapid pace all the time, and just on the basis of that, how did you figure out what it is that really matters to your customers, and how did that help you shape what you built?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, customers, when we think about how much things change and how rapidly they change for all of us, it is really important that we stay close to that. And what's really important to us is how we listen to the customers. So we need to listen continuously, and always be on and thinking about how we hear from our customers through multiple different sources. And we need to really truly strive to understand what that customer is telling us. So that means while we do a lot of traditional surveys and reaching out to customers, we need to go beyond that and look at multiple different sources. And we also then need to, we've got the advantage being in banking where we have a lot of rich data on each of our customers around their transactions and what they're doing. So we can marry that up with what are we hearing from them and what do we see the customers doing. And that allows us to look at trends, and it allows us to identify different patterns and pain points. So there's a big part of it is really intently listening on an ongoing basis. If we did only that alone, it's not enough because it becomes more of a, I guess, like a desktop exercise. And what's really important, and we spend a lot of time doing this, is how we collaborate and listen to our frontline teams. Now, our frontline teams, as I mentioned before, that would be people in our branches, our relationship managers, it could be our contact center teams and staff, it can be the teams that manage our complaints areas. They're speaking to customers all of the time, and they will understand what requests are, what generally the general feeling and sentiment is. So we do a lot of work to understand and collaborate with those frontline teams. And in some cases, we even collaborate directly with customers themselves. So we would ask customers to join us in developing, and that could be marketing campaigns, it could be how we're designing journeys, a number of different things. So we are really understanding, listening to them, and solving real problems with them and with the inputs of the people that really understand and know the most. So that's also, I guess that's how we understand what matters to them. I think your second part, when you said how did that shape our approach and what we built, I think some of that was us recognizing that when we really listen and understand customers, there were a couple of things that were really important. One was consistency. So customers really like, doesn't matter how much things are changing, consistency in what we do in different markets, what we do in our mobile app, how we make things easy. Often consistency is a core part of that. So that was really important. Simplicity, as I just mentioned, really important as well. And then the last part, which I think a lot of companies often overlook, is that emotional and empathetic connection. So even if you're just, you can, a lot of banking can be quite transactional. You could just be making a payment, but if things don't go correctly or you're really looking for some more information, you need to understand and help that customer and do it in the really, I guess, in the right way. And so a lot of that is about empathy, and so we identified through that deep listening, these things were important to us. Customers want to feel heard, they want to feel valued, and they want to feel in control. So we built and shaped our model around thinking about that. So it's not about just the scalable and data driven, it's also about the human side of it and the culture and how we empower our people and embed accountabilities across all different areas of the business so that we can deliver that. So I think we've got the luxury of understanding and having a good amount of data around our customers, but how we use that in a very in the right way to understand our customers and then work with them has really helped us develop our model.
Thank you so much for your answer, Gail. On the flip side, was there anything that didn't work, something that you tried in your digital CX journey that didn't quite land the way you expected?
Yes, of course, when we run programs of this size and scale, and we're looking at it globally, there's always many lessons. One of the biggest early challenges we faced was the lack of clear journey ownership. So while we had mapped many of our customer journeys and we had identified the pain points and the moments that really mattered to customers, what we found was there wasn't always a single point of accountability to deliver and drive the actions across that full journey. And that's often because the journey itself will cut across multiple different areas of the organization. The journey may start in digital, but move through into an operations team or into a physical channel. So it's how do we make sure we've got that single point of accountability. So as a although everybody was very behind improving customer experience, we had to really determine who was owning that end-to-end change. And so without that clear ownership, what we were finding was that while we had really great initiatives and we were driving those forward, sometimes we were seeing that the initiatives were being a bit fragmented and parts were getting deprioritized against some other activities. And so we recognized that we had to change our approach and focus on some key areas to ensure that we really, I guess, understood and drove that end-to-end accountability and change. So a couple of things that we did early on. We ensured that we were really assigning journey owners with that end-to-end accountability, and that those journey owners were empowered across that full journey with the authority to align the teams and then also to really drive the delivery. So that helped us really address the fragmentation and making sure there was one point of ownership. We also, to support that, embedded the CX performance into our governance and reporting, as I mentioned earlier, to make it more part of our DNA. And that was important because that then, again, thinking of that ownership of journeys, it's not just a program, it's not just a one-off exercise, but this is how we're going to think about how we manage our business going forward. So that really helped support that change. And the other part was to just ensure that we continually reinforced that this way of working was going to help us drive the best improvements. We ensured that we had consistent and reinforcing sponsorship from the very top of the organisations in each market. So clear sponsorship to ensure that individuals that had the accountability were supported and empowered to enable consistent delivery as well. So that was one of our key learnings, and we've made great progress on that since.
Yes, well, thank you so much for sharing that, Gail. Really insightful for everyone who's tuning in. Which brings me to my final question for you. And this is related to the other banks and businesses who will be tuning in and listening to this podcast, trying to improve their own digital CX journeys. What's the one thing that you'd suggest them to focus on?
It probably builds on my last answer there. I think it's focus on ownership, not just insight. Often customer experience teams will start, and it's very important, like I talked about, deeply listening to customers, understanding what we're seeing, really looking at those trends and insights. So it's not that that's not critical, it is, but it's not just that. So I would say focus on ownership, not just insight. Um, and the reason I say ownership is if you listen and if you have insights and you understand what you need to action, if you don't have the ownership, often that can be we fail to turn that into actions, and then we fail to deliver the outcomes for customers. So I think it's about clear accountability for customer journeys, clear around your operating model in your organization. So assign journey owners, give them cross-functional influence, provide them with the tools they need and the budgets that they need, align on the KPIs and the key customer outcomes that you want that we want to achieve. And if you do those and that ownership piece very tightly, then you really see that turning into action, into improvement. So CX becomes part of how you run your business. It's not just a function or a team that sits alongside an area looking at insight and trends. So I think that piece around ownership and operating model would be the one thing that I would suggest each different area of their own businesses, banks and businesses, should look at, assess, and see where they think they are on that spectrum of getting that accountability and ownership right.
Well, thank you so much, Gail. That was very valuable, and I'm sure banks and other businesses who are tuning in today will appreciate that bit of advice. Thank you so much for joining us today and speaking with us and sharing your stories. That brings us to the end of today's episode. To our listeners, if you enjoyed the conversation, please make sure to follow and subscribe to the Digital Banker and stay tuned for more such episodes. Thank you for listening in, and we'll catch you next time.